Hey, nerd herders, you're listening to Go Chuck Yourself. In this episode, Erin and I discuss the Season 2 premiere of Chuck versus the First Date. Before we dive in, I did want to give one of my patented disclaimers. I'm not sure what happened with my microphone on this episode, so I may sound a little wonky at points. I think the episode is still listenable, and I think you will enjoy it. And I am also pleased to report that the episodes following this one are of much higher audio quality. So once again, I'm sorry if I sound a little garbly, and I'm really looking forward to having you guys check out the following episodes of this, where I think you will be pleased with how clear and crisp they are. In the meantime, make sure to send us an email at gochuckyourselfpodcast@gmail.com so we can give you a shout out on the air. Follow us on Twitter at GoChuckPodcast, and make sure to check us out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget to like and subscribe and write a review, because we would love to hear from you. Until then, here we go. We will chuck you.
No.
We will chuck you. Come on, everybody.
I'm doing the guitar part.
Okay, sorry. We will chuck you. Come on, everybody. We will chuck you. Go chuck yourself, season 2. Here we are.
Against all odds, we have made it here.
Back at it. Here we are again. What the hell's going on, Erin Arata?
I'm recording this episode. That's about it.
All right, cool. My name's Chris Gillespie. That's Erin Arata. We're here for Go Chuck Yourself Season 2. That's why we're here. That's what we do. It's our thing.
That's what we do. Welcome back.
Here we are again. Said that 10 times already, but it's true. Excited to be back.
Still true.
Season 2. Man. Seems like just the other day we were doing season 1. Now we're doing season 2.
Wow. How time flies.
How many more times can I say season 2 in one episode? Season 2.
Let's have a counter.
Just really
Ding.
Really let it sink in.
Well, I mean, it's pretty exciting. It's exciting that we have made it this far. It's exciting that Chuck made it this far. Because based on the reviews that I've seen of people watching it in real time, there was some doubt whether or not it was going to make it.
Oh, really?
I mean, just among people, not among the staff at NBC. I think they were pretty clear on that they wanted it to continue, but people were not sure. It does seem like the kind of show that would get axed pretty early. Like, it's no Reigns, but...
Hey, too soon.
I'm sorry.
In an alternate universe, we're doing Go Reign Yourself right now.
I know. Well, it could still happen. We did discuss it.
One of these days, I'm going to make it happen. Saving it for, wait for it, a rainy day.
Oh, okay. I knew it was coming, and I still wasn't ready.
I'm going to catch you off guard one of these days. I'm going to review Reigns and be like, this is what we're doing. Put your Chuck notes away. We're doing Reigns.
It'll be really fun, especially if I haven't seen the episode.
Absolutely. But you have seen this episode. It's Chuck versus the First Date, the premiere of season 2. After the first season, which was cut short because of the Writers Guild of America strike. The first season, yes, it was cut short, but then the second season was renewed for a full 22 episode pickup, and they were going to do the full 22 episodes. Initially with season 1, they were also going to do 22 episodes, but they couldn't. So this time around, they're back at it. They're doing 22 episodes, and we're going to be covering all of them.
God help us.
So, do you have anything to help us get in the mindset of what was going on when Chuck Season 2 premiered? In terms of the production or the viewing audience at home?
I do have some information on the production staff for this episode specifically.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first episode since Chuck versus the Helicopter to be written by the creators Josh Schwartz and Chris Fedak. I don't know how you say his name. I'm sorry, Chris.
Fedak.
Fedak. That sounds right.
I got your feedback.
Oh, my feedback is that I did not pronounce feedback correctly.
Well, I was saying I got your, back. I wasn't saying it's...
okay. All
yeah,
right. Well, it's with a D, so...
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Your joke was bad. So this episode was also directed by Jason Ensler, who I happened to find out that he directed this episode of Chuck. He directed Chuck versus the Imported Hard Salami, and he directed Chuck versus the Tango. Those are his 3 Chuck credits, and not to get ahead of myself, but these are my 3 favorite episodes of Chuck. So if you listen to our last episode, you will see that we both liked those previous 2 episodes, and I like this one as well. So good on you, Jason Ensler. He got out while he was ahead, I guess.
Yeah, it seems like it. Well, if he directed 2 of our perennial favorites, I would say that perhaps we are in for a treat with this particular episode as well.
Yeah, I guess we will find out.
Interesting. I didn't know. I wouldn't have imagined that they were directed all by the same person.
Let's get into it.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so this episode begins with a very large and imposing man named Mr. Colt. He is hanging Chuck off of a building by his tie, which I don't know a lot about the human body. I don't know a lot about fabric, but I think that's a very strong tie and potentially a very strong neck to be supporting Chuck as he dangles off a building.
Mm-hmm.
Colt is demanding that Chuck hand over something called the cipher, which is currently in Chuck's hands, and begs the question, why doesn't Colt just take it from him? It's right there. He could just take it. But while this is happening, we get a nice little recap of Chuck's journey so far with the Intersect. We get some insight into who everyone is, in case we've forgotten since last season. We see some clips of the previous season, specifically of Sarah being beautiful and fighting, during which Chuck quips, "Believe me, I know. So do we, Chuck." Then we see some clips of Casey, and Chuck says he's not as pretty. So apparently, Chuck talking shit about Casey will continue into season 2. Apparently, Casey will also continue talking shit about Chuck, so it's a reciprocal relationship, because he and Sarah burst in to save Chuck from Colt, and Casey shouts, "Let the geek go!" Yeah, so was Cobra Style playing in this scene? I'm not as expert on Cobra Style as you, but it sounded like the song that plays in the first episode.
Oh, I didn't notice it. I don't think it was
well,
Cobra Style.
maybe it wasn't Cobra Style.
I think I would have made note of that.
I think you would have known.
Yes.
Sarah asks Chuck why he didn't stay in the car, and Chuck says it's never safe in the car, which I don't know if that's actually the case, that anything happened to him in the car, but I do like that sentiment. I think it is kind of usually not safe in the car, so good Chuck. Fortunately, they recover the cipher, but unfortunately, Colt falls off the building, and he escapes. He's out of there.
Mm-hmm.
So later in a meeting, Beckman and Graham, which is the guy who we never remember his name and will not remember his name again, but Beckman and Graham reveal that the CIA has been working on a new intersect, which we as the audience already know. Chuck, however, did not know this, so clearly excited, he asks what will happen to him once the new intersect is finished. Beckman tells Chuck that he'll be a free man and he can go off and do whatever he wants. Of course, we as the audience know that they're actually planning to have Casey murder Chuck, so I think this is very heartless, and they shouldn't have said anything. I don't know why. I guess he asked and they're keeping their cover, but why get his hopes up when they know they're gonna kill him?
They got my hopes up because I was thinking, obviously from the Christmas episode, they end with Beckman telling Casey that he's gonna have to kill Chuck when the Intersect 2.0 comes around. And then when I saw this, I was thinking, oh, maybe Beckman had a change of heart. And she's deciding that she's just going to let Chuck go.
Yeah.
And I was completely fooled for a moment. And then Chuck and Sarah leave the meeting, and then Beckman calls Casey separately. It was like, yo, we got to talk.
I was wondering, why do you think Sarah doesn't suspect this? She seems sometimes to not trust the government agencies, but this time she seems, pretty much to believe that they're letting him go.
Yeah, she doesn't seem to have any reservations about it. That's a good
point. Why do you think they don't tell her? Do you think they know? Do you think it's just for plot reasons, or do you think that they actually don't think that Sarah could handle it? I don't know.
Yeah, it might just be for plot reasons that it's more dramatic if Casey has the information. And
I guess Casey's more of a wild card too, because he's more serious and he has kind of a more antagonistic relationship with Chuck. Mm-hmm. It would be pretty heartbreaking if it was Sarah, though. But I guess then we couldn't have the romantic tension. I don't know, but it is pretty dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on from that, we get a really nice moment between Sarah and Chuck where she tells him he can do anything he wants. Specifically, she says, "Anything you wanted, you could have." And Chuck makes a face does that include you? I think it does. It might. Then we move into the credits, which I'm going to make a note of only because Mark Christopher Lawrence, Vic Sahay, Scott Krinsky, Julia Lang, and Ryan McPartlin are now added to the opening credits. They're in there. They got little silhouettes of their faces, little drawings. They're looking good. Their names are on the credits. They are official characters.
That's right. Welcome aboard, everyone.
So Chuck wakes up the following morning on top of the world. We get a fun scene where he's very excited about his new life potential. He jumps around on his bed, and then he goes into the bathroom. I'm really unclear on the mechanics of this scene because there's like a very awkward thing where he walks in, he's brushing his teeth, and then he sees that Ellie and Devin are in the shower together. I don't know why he didn't notice. Like, I know he's on top of the world, he's excited, but why didn't he notice that the shower was on? Presumably it's steamy, there's sound. He also says later that the door wasn't locked, but that implies that it was closed. So, I find this all suspect.
Well, he's blasting Huey Lewis, and he's just in his own little world.
That's fair. I guess it happens to the best of us.
I did appreciate Ellie and Austin being in the shower. I thought that was funny.
It was kind of funny. So Chuck sees Devin's dick and congratulates him on it. That was nice. And then at breakfast, Chuck is eating a cereal called Nuts and More, which I thought was an amazing, incredible joke.
Yes, I noticed that as well.
Yeah, very good. I would like to note here that I have a new appreciation for the transitional B-roll used in Chuck. I don't know, I don't know why it's now specifically, but I have been picking out in various shows that I watch that are set in LA. I have been picking out little scenes and being like, that's me. That's where I live. This is the scene for me to feel included. And I do feel included. It's very nice. I saw some Echo Park. I saw some, one of the highways. It was great.
I'm glad that they were able to present the B-roll in a way that caters to people that live in such a niche town as Los Angeles.
Yep.
Such an underrepresented
really nice.
city.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of LA on the screen, so it's really nice.
LA, check it out sometime. If you haven't heard of it. I wanted to point out in the breakfast scene that Captain Awesome refers to Tony Robbins, the motivational speaker, who I did not know that was a thing in 2008, or he was a thing.
Yeah, apparently I was surprised by that too. In the context of this reference, Chuck is saying that he refers to having met someone who turned him on his head and made him think it's time to get a real job and a real apartment. I guess now that he thinks that he's not going to be having to intersect anymore, he wants to have a new lease on life and really live up to his potential. Following some of the B-roll I mentioned, Chuck walks into the Buy More like a new man, which is basically how I feel whenever I walk into the Walmart I worked in until I run into an old coworker. Run into an old coworker, Chuck does. Or a current coworker. It's Morgan. Whatever. Morgan's still there. Morgan still exists. I'm sure we're all happy to see him. I do want to note that his hair looks better this season. Did you think his hair looked good?
Yeah, I think his hair looked better, and I think he also lost weight.
All right, well...
He was looking a little bit more trim. So I was like, good for him.
He's hitting the gym, maybe. Or all that Call of Duty. Maybe he, from some...
from neglecting to eat because he's playing so much Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Which is featured prominently in this episode through product
placement. It is featured
placement.
prominently in every episode.
Not all of them.
That's fair. But in this episode it is.
Yes.
Morgan has some kind of blueprints, which later I found out what this was all about, but honestly I tuned him out immediately. But they have something to do with Call of Duty. He's made a plan for beating some type of campaign. Is that what they're called?
Maybe. I didn't know if it was a campaign mode or if it was like online multiplayer. I was assuming it was online multiplayer. And then I was like, how do you make a blueprint anticipating what people are going to be doing in a video game? It's not like it's some kind of conventional like warfare. I don't know. It didn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't know if life works this way, but the episode works this way.
Yes.
So Chuck decides to take this moment to thank Casey for his service and say that he's really going to miss him. It's a really heartfelt moment, which is ironic because we obviously know Casey's planning to fucking wreck Chuck later tonight. Casey is kind of awkward due to this knowledge of his, so he tells Chuck he has to go and help a single white female pining for the Beastmaster, which is just a really good line that I like. I did notice her in the background because there's like a woman who's like looking at, I think it's like a washer dryer or refrigerator or something. She's like looking at it, and I was like, wow, it's kind of weird that they're like showing her so prominently.
Nothing gets by you.
We learn that the assistant manager job is open again since Harry left to be on whatever show he left to be on. I don't remember.
Dexter.
Dexter, yes. So Big Mike offers the job to Chuck. He asks if Chuck wants it, and Chuck says no. I thought we were going to get a lot more of Chuck being wishy-washy about this, so I was excited that we get an answer pretty soon. Chuck is tasked with interviewing the other store employees who are interested, which seems to be solely made up of Jeff and Lester and sort of Anna. I'm not really clear on why they're not, like, posting it to, like, because Big Mike says he doesn't want to hire anyone from the store. So that's fine. But I don't know why they don't, like, open it to outside candidates if Big Mike's not interviewing anyone anyway.
And then last time when they were hiring the assistant manager position and Harry Tang got hired, they had the district manager come in on Halloween to interview them.
That's not happening this time.
Yeah,
it's just Chuck.
Doesn't matter. We don't need the district manager to come in. We can just have Chuck do it.
Unfortunately, much like the district manager, the Wienerlicious is no more.
No.
I know, it was a tragedy. It has been replaced by Orange Orange, which is a...
Hey, Orange Orange, how's it going?
When I was looking up, this is a little insight into my life, but I was looking into Etsy art for Chuck, because I thought it might be nice to have like a little Chuck art on my wall.
Yes.
And they did not have any Wienerlicious memorabilia, but they do have a lot of Orange Orange memorabilia.
Interesting.
They have like some Art Deco Orange Orange posters. So if you're in the market for that kind of thing, hit up Etsy.
Kind of. I will give Orange Orange a chance. It's kind of hard to leave Wienerlicious behind, but I'll give Orange Orange a chance and see if we can establish a strong relationship with the Orange Orange brand, the Orange Orange family of products. I'm
thinking about the name of Orange Orange here because when I first saw it, I was kind of thinking it was a dumb name, but now I'm thinking maybe it's playing off of like red mango and like all the various like color and then fruit names. It's actually kind of funny because it's like an orange.
What is red mango?
Red mango is you live in New York. It's a froyo chain in New York. Like there's like pinkberry, there's red mango.
Never heard of red mango.
Okay, well,
but pinkberry, that's something I understand.
Yes.
Look around.
Oh no!
Look at all the frozen yogurt places.
Yeah, that you're a regular Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yes.
So do you think, well, I guess I should explain what the Orange Orange is. It has replaced the Wienerlicious and Sarah wearing kind of like a Baywatch outfit. It's like an orange tank top that just looks like basically a bathing suit. She works there now. It's in the same location as the Wienerlicious, but it's now a froyo place. And Sarah, again, seems to be the sole employee and proprietor. So do you think that she's just changed the Wienerlicious? Do you think she's still the boss? Do you think she had to hire a new fake boss? What do you think is going on here?
So she did not renew. She must have had some kind of franchisee lease with Wienerlicious. So she must have not renewed that lease and decided to do a lease of Orange Orange. Okay, maybe.
Yeah. I think that makes sense.
Why wouldn't you keep Scooter on board for Orange Orange?
Well, because Scooter went off to be in his dance production or whatever we decided. He's busy.
That's a random reference, but yes. He knew too much. I think he just knew too much.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe he was killed.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe Casey took him out.
Oh, no. So we get a fun scene of Sarah sexily whipping up some yogurt for a customer. It was really nice to see her working, but then she gets some froyo on her finger and licks it off, which is the most unsanitary thing I've ever seen. I don't know why she's not wearing gloves.
Or a hairnet.
Oh my god, it was so gross. Horrible. Chuck visits Sarah in the Orange Orange, and he asks her on a real date before she goes off on her next mission, never to see him again. Mm-hmm. And she says yes. It was kind of a sweet moment, and I was excited for the first date of the episode's title. I guess that's what it's referring to.
Yes, it was very exciting. Yes. This is lots of positive vibes in this episode of Chuck.
Yeah. We get another getting ready sequence where we actually see Chuck shirtless, so I thought that was pretty exciting.
Hey, yo.
He's a very hairy man.
Very hairy.
Really hairy. So I was excited by this specific element until we also see Sarah in her underwear, which I guess is equitable, but again, really unnecessary. She's putting on makeup in her underwear, which I thought was absurd, because how would she get her clothes on after without smudging her makeup? But she puts on her dress from the legs up, so I guess that's how. Kind of insane. I don't know anyone who gets dressed like that, but I don't know. Fine. Casey's contribution to this scene is practicing shooting with a bunch of, I don't really know the word for this, but it's like pictures that drop down from his fireplace, like a shooting range exercise kind of thing. He has a picture of Bin Laden, who I hadn't seen on a television screen in a while and was very alarmed to see. He has a picture of Hitler. Mm-hmm. Then he has a picture of Ronald Reagan, who we establish here that is someone who Casey really cares for a lot. He, essentially places his hand on his heart and is like, I would never shoot you, sir. Then a picture of Chuck shows up. So Chuck is in the company of Bin Laden and Hitler as a picture that Casey shoots.
But then he is unable to shoot Chuck directly. He misses.
That's true. Right? Yes. Yeah. So we get that, and then before his date with Sarah, Ellie demands that Chuck tell her what he wants to do with his life, which is weird considering that he first told her he was making a life plan that morning. But Ellie's really into the idea. Ellie's
a doctor. She doesn't mess around with her life plan.
That's true.
I wanted to point out that in this date, opposed to the first date that Chuck and Sarah had, Chuck, I think, has a much nicer shirt this time around. I think he's put in a little bit more effort. Has a little bit more care. Looks like a higher quality shirt than the first time. I didn't like the first shirt. I like this shirt.
I didn't notice the shirt, which is usually a good sign. He does have some shirts that I do not like in this episode, but I guess this was not one of them because I did not notice it.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So then Chuck and Sarah go on their date, and Casey's left alone brooding in his apartment, and a messenger comes to Casey's door, and after a brief exchange, Casey hands the cipher, which they got from Mr. Colt, to the messenger to presumably bring it to Beckman after they exchange kind of like a code word. The messenger, just like all delivery people in the Burbank area, is not an actual messenger and is instead a counter-operative who knocks Casey down with a poisonous gas. You just really can't trust delivery people in Burbank, or in your case, Los Angeles. I would never give anything to anyone who purports to be a courier of any sort, any kind of messenger. I love the postal service, but maybe even not mailmen. Definitely not shawarma people.
Yeah, I really think the writers of Chuck just have some kind of a beef with the delivery services.
Some kind of vendetta. You just really can't trust them. So then the delivery guy, who was not really a delivery guy, goes back to Mr. Colt, who is played by Michael Clark Duncan. Did you mention that at the top?
I didn't mention that, so please.
So Michael Clark Duncan, rest in peace. And then after receiving the cipher from the delivery guy, Mr. Colt says that they have 2 more targets. Guess who they are?
Who are they?
They're Chuck and Sarah, goddammit.
Oh, shit.
So Chuck picks Sarah up, has no idea that he's a target for this hitman, and they go on the date, and Sarah makes a conscious choice to leave her gun behind. She just wants to go on a normal date for once. She just wants to be relaxed and not think about her spy life, so that means no gun.
No gun. Bad choice, Sarah.
I always have my gun on me. I'm wearing my gun right now. Who knows what's going to go down?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty big gun, huh? So
can I offer 2 words for you about this sequence of scenes?
Only 2, no more, no less.
The 2 words are gad and jits. There are gadgets galore. Casey's got a gadget. He's got a gadget that he can scan people to see if they have weapons, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
The bike messenger, we do find out, has a gadget as well.
Casey was really fooled by the messenger guy.
Yeah, I don't know why his gadget couldn't see the poison gas thing but I don't know. It says he has a little scanning system that says no weapons. But I really we haven't seen a ton of gadgets in action so far, so I like that we're starting off season 2 having some cool spy tech.
Not since the Chuck was it the Sandworm with what's his face, the guy that was the gadget maker.
Yeah, there was in that, and then I think there was a gadget in Chuck versus the Wookiee when they use it to break into the guy's safe.
Mm-hmm.
But there hasn't been that many, so I was excited to see a couple.
Well, I was excited to see a couple, specifically the couple of Chuck and Sarah, who are at a dumpling restaurant. Mm-hmm. Per Morgan's recommendation, much to Sarah's surprise, Chuck says...
Considering she was eating the food, she seemed a little dubious. She was like, oh, this place is really good. And then Chuck was like, this is Morgan's recommendation. And Sarah was like, ew, really?
Oh, you would 100% have the same exact reaction if you were at a restaurant and then you found out that Morgan recommended it.
Yeah.
Chuck says, whoa, no faith in the little bearded man.
That is what Morgan is.
Chuck points out that Morgan has always been supportive of his and Sarah's fake relationship and has never once doubted the fact that Chuck could date a woman like Sarah. Morgan doesn't think that there's anything weird about it. Chuck thinks it's weird, but Morgan just believes in Chuck and thinks that he can date someone like Sarah. Chuck has a lot of self-esteem issues that he's working through.
It's nice. I like Morgan more when he's not on screen and other people are describing him. He sounds like a supportive friend, and he likes dumplings. That's great. I just don't like when I have to look at him.
He has a lot of positive things going for him, and also sometimes not so positive, but maybe he's turning a new leaf. Anyhow,
hopefully.
Chuck showers Sarah with compliments, and then Sarah says that Chuck is fantastic, and they're having a heart-to-heart. It seems really sincere. Chuck rhetorically asks, so what would Casey do if he knew we were doing this, referring to the date, to which Sarah jokingly responds, it would probably kill him. Hard cut to Casey dying because of the poisonous gas.
Okay, this was so intense.
It was so intense.
This was so intense.
It was awesome. I really appreciated the juxtaposition between Chuck and Sarah's nice date to how intense Casey dying is in his apartment. I thought it was awesome. Casey's covered in this poisonous powder and he's writhing around on this floor, like coughing up blood, struggling. And like,
so much blood.
I've seen the show before, and I think Casey still might die in this episode. Coughing up blood with no choice, he breaks his framed portrait of Ronald Reagan, and that hoses not so much an antidote, but a button to activate an emergency washout shower in his ceiling. So he presses the button, water pours on him, rinses out the poison from his mouth of his face.
He also gets like an EpiPen and like stabs it into his heart.
Yeah, he has like the adrenaline shot.
Yeah.
Shoots into his chest. So
it's crazy.
He's recovering. It's intense. It's crazy. I really appreciated that because I feel like a lot of times they do the big action stuff, but they don't have small, tiny, dramatic, tense action moments like that. I think that was good.
It was good.
Back at the restaurant, Chuck and Sarah are about to share a romantic kiss.
Can I actually interrupt you for 1 second about the romantic kiss?
Sure.
So, Chuck and Sarah, before this kiss, they're discussing her impending departure from Burbank, and she asks what he's saying, whatever he's saying, and he says, what I've always wanted to say. And then immediately he goes to kiss her, that's a word crime. He's not saying anything by kissing her. His mouth is moving in a different way. Words are not coming out, and I was not having that. Bad line, bad writing.
Perhaps you've never heard the expression, actions speak louder than words.
No, I haven't. Is that an expression?
It is an expression. And I want you to think about it, and I want you to write a 1,000-word essay about what you think that means and have it on my desk by the end of the week.
All right. Thank you, Professor Gillespie. I will do that.
You're welcome. I look forward to reading it. So they're about to kiss, but then all of a sudden Chuck flashes on all of the other customers and I guess all of the other staff at the restaurant. Turns out it's industry night for international gun traffickers and assassins. Chuck freaks out. Seriously, there could not be more bad guys in this restaurant. Oh, wait, yes, there can be. Mr. Colt enters, not to be confused with someone named Mr. Cold or Mr. Freeze. He's Mr. Colt. I thought they were calling him Mr. Cold at first, C-O-L-D.
That would be a pretty cool name.
Which I was like, yeah, he seems pretty cold. No, but he's just Mr. Colt. Chuck kind of freaks out and then kind of defaults to thinking that Sarah will get them out of their predicament, but Sarah reveals that she does not have her gun. Mr. Colt says that Chuck and Sarah need to come with him, and they're kind of freaking out, and Mr. Colt says that he doesn't really care about Chuck and Sarah, but his bosses told him to get them, and his bosses give him the heebie-jeebies. So he grabs Sarah. Sarah's trying to get away and attack him. At this point, Chuck's watch starts beeping, and then they see a Crown Vic speeding towards the restaurant window.
Oh, shit.
Casey crashes through the window in one of his signature $10,000 Crown Vics, knocking out all of the bad guys. It was awesome. It was great. The gang
it was really awesome.
Gets in the car after demolishing this potentially fake restaurant. It must be a real restaurant, and all of the staff was either killed or kidnapped so all the bad guys could come. So I guess it's no longer a restaurant, physically or in terms of a business perspective. So Sarah, Chuck, and Casey get back into the Crown Vic, and they reverse out of there, peel out, and escape. Casey reveals that he'd lost the cipher. So there's a lot up in the air.
Dun,
Chuck,
dun, dun.
Chuck woke up thinking that today was going to be a good day. Chuck realizes that without the cipher, he's still going to be the Intersect, and he's still going to have to live the spy life, which he's not too excited about. So Chuck wakes up the next morning, still listening to Huey Lewis, a little bit of a different Huey Lewis song. He's in a daze. We listened to The Power of Love before it was hip to be a square when he was happy. Now it's The Power of Love, which...
They're still happy. They're both happy songs.
Yeah, but Chuck's not happy. Chuck is
I guess it's
out.
the juxtaposition.
He's going through his day kind of on autopilot, bummed out that he's still the Intersect. He goes to the Buy More for work. He's zoning out when Morgan reminds him of the The B plot line of Chuck being tasked with interviewing candidates for the new assistant manager position. I forgot about this plot line after the action at the Chinese restaurant. Chuck tries to hire Morgan for the job, but Morgan turns it down, saying that he just recently perfected his ability to do no work while at work. I respect that.
I respect that too. I think that was like a very mature of Morgan to know what he wants.
And also, if you reach that kind of equilibrium with like, hey, I found the exact way that I can do the least amount of work possible while still maintaining my job. That's hard.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So Chuck dives right into interviewing the members of the nerd herd. It's a montage. Anna deliberately flirts with Chuck to make Morgan sweat.
Which was really weird.
Really weird. No really indication to where Morgan and Anna are in their relationship.
No,
but
not at
Anna
all.
just wanted to torture Morgan. Jeff hands in a napkin with a note written in red Sharpie pen as his resume. And then he tries to flirt with Chuck and play footsies with Chuck, which Chuck does not have. Incidentally, a napkin covered in red Sharpie. Not the worst resume I've ever seen working in retail.
What is? What have you seen?
Don't worry about it. So then, the flip side of that, Lester created his own Wikipedia page for himself, which he then printed and handed in, which I think is actually pretty impressive. I would appreciate
That's a bold move. He knows how to work Wikipedia, so that's nice. I don't know if it's relevant to buy more, but
no small feat creating a page on Wikipedia. But if you're able to do it and then hand it in as your resume, I would hire him. I'd say yeah.
There's a plot line in the newsroom where they establish that as an individual, you are not allowed to edit information on Wikipedia about yourself.
Interesting.
So I don't know if that rule was not established at this time, or if this is a anachronism by the writers of Chuck. But either way,
I don't know. I'll touch base with my Wikipedia friends because I donate so much money.
You do donate, yeah.
So Lester does a bad Godfather impression, and Chuck says, "We work at the Buy More, not the Mafia." Immediately before Casey walks in, icing his jaw with one hand and slamming Morgan into a wall with another, creating a very Mafia-esque environment. Chuck flashes on the ring printed on Casey's face from where he got punched the night before and suddenly knows where the bad guy's hideout is, just from that one ring print alone.
Who said the intersect wasn't convenient?
Who said? I never said that. Chuck tells Casey that he wants them to find Mr. Colt immediately and get the cipher back so he can stop being the intersect and continue with his life, which he is very optimistic for. Casey tells him that optimism is dangerous because the future doesn't always go as planned. Ain't that the truth, Casey? Casey then exits to make a secret phone call. Chuck passes the hiring duties onto Morgan and heads over to Orange, where Casey and Sarah are prepping to hijack the bad guys at the location that Chuck flashed on. Sarah and Casey won't let Chuck join them and tell him to go back to work. Chuck says the Buy More doesn't need him because Morgan has everything under control. Cut to Morgan hosting a cage-fighting, bungee-jumping style brawl in the technology room, or the technology cage, to determine the new assistant manager.
I liked that.
Envision this, Morgan is talking to a microphone and is introducing Jeff and Lester, who are strapped into bungee-jumping things, little harnesses, and they're bouncing around the cage, fighting each other. Apparently that is something that Morgan knows how to wrangle together and produce. So good for him.
Yeah, good on Morgan. I thought this was kind of charming. It was kind of a nice cut, and I also I don't know, it looked kind of fun. I would do that.
I did not think you'd have that reaction to that, but that's okay. Casey and Sarah are with a SWAT team storming the hideout that Chuck told them to check out, but it's completely empty.
Okay, I have one thing about this.
Mm-hmm.
The entire SWAT team has helmets on. But Casey and Sarah don't. They're the only people in this 40-person crew that just don't have helmets. Their heads just aren't protected. Did they think we wouldn't recognize them if they had helmets?
I absolutely would not have recognized them. I'd be so confused if they cut to the scene of
who is that?
Of a dozen SWAT people all wearing helmets. I'd be like, these are new characters. Who are they? We need to introduce them. What's going on? Who's that one that looks like Casey? Who's that one that looks like Sarah?
Who's that one with long blonde hair? You don't know.
Anytime, I feel like with movies or games or TV shows, when characters are in gunfights and they're not wearing helmets, I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
Right? Would a helmet even help
wear
you
a helmet.
if you got shot in the head?
I don't know. I mean, probably not, but it's weird that they don't have them.
They're just so cool and swift, they don't need helmets, just
That's
like
true.
People who ride bikes without helmets.
Wow.
Listeners, always wear a helmet when riding a bicycle. If there's one thing you take away from this episode, always wear your helmet.
Always wear your helmet.
So anyway, where were we? All right. So Chuck is sent out on a nerd herd call, who asks specifically for Chuck. Chuck, for whatever reason, still thinks that this is a normal thing for the nerd herd to do, even though every time this has happened in season 1, it means that he's going to be ambushed by someone who knows how to take advantage of the nerd herd. So Chuck arrives at a warehouse, still thinking it's a technical call, and guess what? It's Mr. Colt who called him.
What a surprise.
God damn it, Chuck. Didn't they see, like, in the order form when they're like, oh, what's the appointment for? Oh, it's for one Mr. Colt. Oh, okay.
In a warehouse.
Maybe he's having issues with his computer. I can go fix them and he won't want to kill me.
Yeah.
Chuck is welcomed into their den of henchmen and Mr. Colt. Mr. Colt casually stretches and explains that he will be breaking Chuck's neck.
Violent.
He wants to be limber for that because Chuck saw his face and heard his voice. Therefore, Chuck is no longer safe, and Chuck cannot live because Mr. Colt can't have anyone knowing who he is.
Much like Scooter.
He reassures Chuck, if that is his real name, that he will not be saved and that he will be dying, to which Chuck has a crisis, understandably so, before hatching a plan. Convince Mr. Colt that he is actually a real spy and that this was all part of Chuck's master plan. His master Call of Duty plan, that is.
Oh.
So he he channels all this confidence and pretends to be Carmichael and tries to, bluff his way out of this and psych out Mr. Colt and his team by saying that there's henchmen and SWAT teams outside of the building. The henchmen look out the window. They don't see any SWAT teams. So Chuck calls Morgan and has Morgan recount the tactical plan over speakerphone. Morgan thinks that they're talking about Call of Duty. Chuck knows that they're talking about Call of Duty. Somehow, Mr. Colt is now even more afraid and threatened that he hears someone on the phone talking about their strategic plan.
Yeah, well, it's a second party. So he's like, well, I have to believe it now because two people are saying the same thing.
I know, but like, what if you're a spy, you're going to call someone and be like, hold on, let me verify with the other secret top agents. Like, hey, what were we going to do today? What was that secret plan? Oh, this secret plan? Yeah, that one. Can you just recount it for the bad guys? Oh, yeah, sure thing. Mr. Colt probably could have just killed Chuck there and saved himself a lot of time, but instead he listened to the entire phone call and just freaked out.
Yeah, he was worried. I don't know what you want me to say.
So in a panic, Mr. Colt freaks out, thinking that he's surrounded and that this is the end. He turns his back to Chuck. Meanwhile, Chuck grabs the cipher and runs away.
Yes, he does. So Chuck, with the cipher, nearly makes it to the warehouse exit when Colt returns to throw Chuck out a window. Chuck flies out the window so hard. Like, I get Colt is very strong, but like, it was intense. And I was surprised he wasn't like seriously injured and or impaled on the very real shards of glass all around him. This was one of 3 times during this episode that in my initial notes for myself, I made reference to various Spider-Man movies. The scene in the restaurant when Casey drives his car through reminded me of the scene in Spider-Man or Spider-Man 2 that was in the trailer where like Peter and Mary Jane are like about to kiss and then like a car flies through the window. A little different, but I did think of Spider-Man.
Yeah, like with Dr. Octopus, yeah.
Yeah, then I thought of Dr. Octopus again here because his wife gets killed by some flying glass. So, another one. The next one is coming up, but we're not quite there yet. Colt, instead of just taking the cipher from Chuck, like Chuck is stunned on the ground surrounded by glass, but instead of just taking the cipher, Colt takes the time to carry Chuck up to the top of the fire escape and dangle him off by his ankles to, again, convince him to hand over the cipher. Like, that is in Chuck's hand. I don't know why Colt is putting so much energy into this, but...
He just really likes windows and rooftops and dangling people.
I think he does. I think he's into that.
The most subtle, clean way to kill someone is by hanging them off of a rooftop and then dropping them. It's a really good way if you're trying to be a secret assassin. It's a good way. Yeah. Sarah
and Casey show up. Sarah specifically shows up on the roof and tells Colt to freeze. Colt refuses and just drops Chuck from the fire escape. Sarah screams, "No!" with some genuine emotion, unlike how I just read that line.
No!
No.
Sorry, Erin, we're not going to be able to cast you as the role of Sarah Walker in Chuck.
God damn it. All my dreams.
No, Chuck.
No. Fortunately, Casey is on one of the lower parts of the fire escape and catches Chuck by the wrist.
Ooh, yeah,
this reminded me of a different Spider-Man movie in which Gwen dies because Peter tries to save her in this kind of way. I'm obviously not a doctor, but I do think Chuck would have, like, at least dislocated his shoulder or his wrist or something. But
once again, you're not a doctor, so you don't know.
I'm not a doctor, so I wouldn't know. Sarah, thinking that Chuck has just fallen to his death, is full of rage, and she fights Colt. He's a lot bigger than her, but she does hold her own. Meanwhile, the rescued Chuck tells Casey he loves him, which was nice. Another good moment between them.
I'm going to pause and just say to all the executives of Warner Brothers that are listening to the show, obviously Chuck is a Warner Brothers production, Warner Brothers friends, I need that fighting game. The Chuck fighting game needs to happen. Look at this scene. Sarah versus Mr. Colt on a rooftop. Come on. It needs to happen. It needs to happen. I'm playing Injustice 2 right now, and this game would be so much better than Injustice 2. I don't even know if I like Injustice 2, but I'm playing it. And you know what? Injustice 2, Shazam's not even in it. What the hell, Warner Brothers? You're not going to put Shazam in Injustice 2?
I love Shazam.
You're going to put some
excited.
guy named Captain Cold, but you're not going to put Shazam?
Or Mr. Colt.
Or Mr. Colt? You're going to put a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle into the game, but
only
you're not
one?
going to put Shazam? Yeah, they only put one. I
Which
think the
one?
other ones are in it. I don't know, the blue one.
Okay.
All right, anyhow, that's enough of my nonsense. Go ahead.
Casey goes up to the roof to help Sarah, which does not go well because Colt's men arrive to surround them. Sarah and Casey are surrounded, but Chuck shows up with the SWAT team. Because this time they are actually surrounded, Colt and his men surrender, and Casey is able to recover the cipher. As he's being carted off, Colt refers to Chuck as Casey's boss, which Casey is not happy with, but I was very happy with.
Yes. Chuck's got a lot of confidence this time around, this episode. He was bluffing a lot, but all of his bluffs were working out for him.
Yeah, he did well. The AV Club article that I read about this episode, the writer was very happy that Chuck had really come into his own and was using his bluffing abilities.
Yeah, fake it till you make it.
Yeah, he's doing well. So with the main conflict of the episode resolved, we follow Casey back to his home, and we find out that he has a bonsai tree. I guess he was feeling stressed about the whole murdering Chuck situation, so he's just kind of going to town on that thing.
Not only does he have a bonsai tree, but he also has a ton of Honey Nut Cheerios and Easy Mac. Did you see that?
I did not notice that, no.
In his kitchen, it's almost completely stocked with Honey Nut Cheerios and Easy Mac.
I don't know how, I guess he just works out a lot if that's his main nutritional
I guess
stuff.
so. He basically has the same diet as me in college, because that was all I was able to cook for myself. A lot of Honey Nut Cheerios and Easy Mac. I don't even like Easy Mac.
I don't know that anyone likes Easy Mac, but sometimes
I ate so much Easy Mac in college.
So Beckman shows up on Casey's screen, and she reminds him that he has to kill Chuck. She says it's time. Casey, in a rather sweet moment, he kind of goes to Chuck's defense and says that Chuck has served his country with honor. But Beckman and also Graham shows up. Apparently he was off screen. They tell him that his orders remain the same and that Chuck has served his country with honor and now he will die with honor. So, very harsh.
I was distracted by Graham entering the shot out of nowhere, and I'm thinking of different scenarios, like why that happened. My first thought is that he was standing behind a camera that's recording Beckman and like directing her and be like, "This is really great. Keep it going, keep it going." And then when he hears Casey say something, he's like, "What?" And he has to go in front of the camera.
I love it.
Or
it's just
he was like
YouTube
walking through the office building or wherever they are in the Pentagon, and he hears Beckman talking to Casey. He's like, "What?" And then he has to go in there and be like, "Yo, you have to kill." He just can't help himself. Like, what?
No, he can't. Well, he's just trying to get as much action as he can before he no longer can.
Ooh.
So I guess since their date the night before didn't go well, Chuck is cooking his dad's recipe of balsamic chicken. He's cooking for Sarah. Meanwhile, Ellie and Devin are going out on a real date, so that's nice. Before they leave, Chuck makes the suggestion that he might backpack through Europe as his next move. And Devin is like, "Awesome, dude. Let me tell you about Amsterdam." Ellie makes a face, and then Devin is like, "Oh, lovely city, lots of canals." So I think this is a good time to play a game called, is this joke about weed or is this joke about prostitutes? What do you think, Chris?
Initially, I thought it was weed, but now that he's so weird around Ellie talking about it, maybe it's about the prostitutes.
All right. That's the conclusion of our game, weed or prostitutes.
A little of both. I was thinking, because at the beginning of the episode, and Chuck is saying like, "Oh, I'm going to have career goals or whatever," and he lists a few jokey things, and Ellie's like, "Well, better not be driving the Millennium Falcon or something like that." So then when he says right now that he's thinking legitimately about going backpacking through Europe, Ellie is weirdly supportive of that, even though backpacking through Europe is also not a career plan.
Yeah, but it's like a nice thing. I don't know. It's kind of like moving forward with his life in some way. So I don't know.
Debatable. I think it's just killing time.
So we get a scene where Chuck is making dinner and Casey is sneaking into Chuck's apartment, ready to kill him. We're also cutting to Graham testing out the new intersect. He's in the white room that we're also familiar with pictures flashing around. A bunch of agents are there in a line with him wearing sunglasses, which they then take off, presumably to, I don't know, presumably a lot of people are going to be the intersect now. I don't know exactly what their plan is.
Yeah.
But my favorite part of the scene was that The Twist by Frightened Rabbit was playing. It's a really weird scene for that song to be playing in, but I lost my shit. It was great. Chuck, the show, actually introduced me to Frightened Rabbit, which they are one of my favorite bands now. So thank you.
I didn't know
Chuck.
that.
Yeah, I saw them in New York.
What?
Rest in peace. Very sad.
What? Who died? What? Who? Wait, what?
The lead singer of Frightened Rabbit died this past year. This is a sad fact.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Scott is no longer with us.
Oh.
It's very sad.
I didn't know that.
Rest in peace, Scott. You helped us all. That doesn't sound sincere, but it is. I'm very sad about this. I'm using humor to deflect my emotions.
This took a weird turn that I was not prepared for.
I'm sorry, but the Twist is a wonderful song and great in this scene. Unfortunately, the cipher seems to have been some type of Trojan horse, so as soon as the intersect is done loading, a little message comes up on Graham's screen that says, "Fulcrum thanks you," and the whole room just explodes. Graham is dead. All of the agents are dead. The intersect 2.0, kaput. It's out of there.
I don't know if this was something that I was just being dumb about, but did you think that Graham was a secret Fulcrum agent and he was blowing up the Intersect, which was the big desktop computer circa 2002?
Yeah, I was unsure because for a second I wasn't completely paying attention in the scene where Colt is on the computer talking to the messenger. So I happened to glance up and I just saw like the tail end of that, and for a second I for some reason thought it was going to be Graham, and I was like, oh, that's why I don't remember him. It's because he's a Fulcrum agent. And then when this scene was happening, I again thought that he was going to go rogue in some capacity, but in fact he just dies.
Yeah, I thought he was a secret Fulcrum agent and he was sacrificing himself for Fulcrum. But I might be reading into it.
I don't know that that's true, because so the information I found about him is that actor is Tony Todd, and he had to leave Chuck he joined the cast of 24. So he appears in 2 other Chuck episodes in future seasons in 2 flashback sequences.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he just died. I don't think that he is actually, like, based on that information, I don't think he, like, comes up as a Fulcrum agent. But I guess, like, I don't remember completely, so it could happen.
What's the deal with everyone jumping ship on Chuck? Everyone's getting all these other deals to go on other shows, and everyone's like, yeah, get me out of Chuck.
Yep. I guess they thought it was a sinking ship, but little did they know it was just setting sail.
And then it sinks a little bit, and then it sets sail again, and then it kind of sinks a little bit more, and then it gets back up, and then anyhow.
And it just sinks. Casey is about to shoot Chuck because he obviously does not know about this Fulcrum situation when the doorbell rings, and it's Sarah. She has great timing because she says, "Chuck, we have to call off the date. The intersect was destroyed." She apparently heard about what happened very quickly and tells Chuck. So bad for Chuck, good for the show. Casey calls off his mission for now to go figure out what happened. We move to the next day. Chuck is in mourning because he is still the intersect, and he's hanging out in the Bymore, unhappy with his future prospects. We find out that Lester has been hired as assistant manager, I guess. That scene was weird, and I didn't really understand what was happening. But I do have a lot of confusion that the writers or the costume designers or whatever of Chuck seem to think that adult, mature men wear, like, sweater vests and have slicked back hair. Because every time a formerly immature character, like, gets some modicum of power, that's exactly what they're wearing. I don't understand this at all. Would you say, as a man, do you think that's what adulthood equals?
Wearing a vest and slicking back your hair?
Yeah.
I don't think so, but I appreciate it. That's good. I didn't realize that was something that, because they did it with Morgan before.
Yeah.
I'm going to start dressing like that.
Okay, see what happens. Let me know.
Dress for the job you want, not the job that you have.
Yes, exactly.
I seriously cannot wear vests. Anyhow, go on. Just, they don't look good with my body shape.
Okay, I was going to ask for clarification, but that explains it. So Morgan and Chuck have kind of a nice moment where Morgan kind of repeats what Sarah said at the beginning of the episode, where he says Chuck can do anything he wants. There was another good joke that I think was made specifically for me, where Chuck says he wants to get out of Burbank, and Morgan says, "Where? To Glendale?" Which is a little reference for us LA folks.
A little insider humor for those the few of the people living in the small town of Los Angeles, California.
Yeah. Morgan follows up by saying he thinks Chuck can do anything, but before he goes off to change the world, Jeff is going to eat 90 Twinkies. Chuck is intrigued. Casey, who is walking by, is not intrigued until Morgan shouts, "Jeff might die!" And then Casey's super into it. We get a kind of weird ending shot of the three of them hurrying out of the store from it's like from the ground up down an aisle. But, it's a nice camaraderie between the male characters of Chuck, and thus ends episode 1 of season 2.
Can I just say, even though we'll talk about the episode again and big picture what we thought about it in a moment, but I actually really, really like this ending of Chuck.
Yeah,
or this
I thought
episode,
it was nice.
because it's different, because usually they do a cliffhanger or it's revealing a big plot point that's going to be elaborated on in the following episode. But I like this because with the themes of Chuck trying to figure out what he wants to do or what his life is going to look like in the big picture, that it's okay that he doesn't have that figured out and that he can still enjoy the small idiosyncrasies of the Buy More while he's there. I appreciate it. And that Casey's also able to appreciate working at the Buy More and being on the Chuck job as long as he is. So I appreciate the ending. I thought it was
That's a really nice and mature way of looking at it, and I'm happy that you came to this rationalization of this.
Thanks.
I also do really like the end of this episode. I do like ending on cliffhangers. I think there is a reason that they do that, but I think it is a pretty bold move to end the first episode of a season with this kind of just pleasant ending.
Yes.
That's great.
Great. So we're going to introduce a new segment now for this show called It's Time for the Home Theater Room.
Woo!
Where we enter the Buy More home theater room to watch some home movies from our own lives. Specifically in the context of this episode. This episode is Chuck versus the First Date. So the home videos that we will be watching today, if you'll join us in the home theater room, are talking about bad first dates that we've had.
How exciting. I always love to relive these types of moments.
I feel like I have a lot, but I also don't know how many of them you already know of. So do you...
I can't think of any first dates that you've been on that were bad. So
really?
Maybe none of them.
I've done a good job of lying and covering up my past then. So I was thinking about this a lot, and there's a lot to choose from. Not that many, because I haven't been on that many dates. But I think the unequivocally the worst first date that I went on was when I was in high school. I just graduated high school, and I was working in retail for my first retail job. And I was working with just so many just teenage girls, and I was so stoked about it because I was like one of the only guys there, and I was like, the odds are good here. The odds gotta think I'm gonna win. So
nice way of looking at it. A lot of respect.
Because I didn't have much luck in my high school, so I was thinking this is a different town, these are completely different people. I would, maybe at least I can date someone here. One of the girls that I was crushing on, I somehow managed to have her agree to go on a date with me, which I don't know how I was able to do that, but I was super excited. And we agreed we're going to go to the state park, and we're going to go kayaking at the state park.
Okay, that's actually nice.
Yes. So I was ready, and we had picked a time that we were going to meet, and we were going to meet in the parking lot of the store that we worked at. So it was like a halfway point for both of us. We both knew where it was. I get there in my 2001 Chevy Cavalier, sitting there getting amped up.
Painting the scene.
And then she texts me and says that she's on her way. I'm like, okay, cool. And I sit there for an hour.
Oh no.
By myself in my car. And then she shows up. And she shows up, not by herself, but with another one of our friends who also worked at the store.
Oh no.
So it was like a 3-person thing. And then I was like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, it'll be like a friend group thing. And I drive us there, and we were there for like 45 minutes, maybe an hour before, because both of them were working, so they needed to be back anyways. So then we had to call it early, and I had to drive us back to the store and left them there. And I just like went back and continued about my day. And I was just like, oh my God, that was so bad.
What happened
I managed
later?
to be a third wheel. Huh?
What happened later? Did you two ever talk about this?
I don't know. I don't know if we ever talked about it, but it was pretty clear that that was like a mercy date that she was giving me. It's just like, I'll throw you a bone, but I need to have a friend come with me so it's not miserable. I don't want you getting the wrong idea.
Sorry, past Chris. It sounds like a bad one.
It's okay. All right, so it's time for the home theater room. So we'll head out of the home theater room and onto another segment that we're calling It's a Sign.
It's a sign. So this is a segment where we highlight some of the best signs and or posters in this episode of Chuck and potentially break down some of their larger meanings, larger context, larger symbolism, imagery, all those good things that we learned about Emerson. So I have 3 to highlight. I'll go in order of, I wouldn't say worst because they're all pretty good, but I'll go from least exciting to most exciting. So in the Buy More, there's an ad presumably for cameras, and it says makes big bright images and big bright smiles. So that's just a nice one. You know, big bright images, big bright smiles. Nice to see. Good things.
Mm-hmm.
My next favorite is actually one that is verbally called out in the episode by Casey, which is I guess this seems to be like the slogan of the Orange Orange. It's printed on the counter for the Orange Orange, and it says yogurt and fun. Those are 2 things that I like. I also associate yogurt with fun, so that's nice. My sign that I would like to highlight for this episode, though, is the apparent slogan of the Nerd Herd, which is geek chic, ... in overdrive. So, Chris, I wanted to break that down a little bit. Okay, so geek chic is a nice rhyme. That's some nice wordplay. I don't really know what the chic is referring to. I guess
they're wearing ties?
Yeah, I guess. But then we have the in overdrive, and not just in overdrive, but like in ellipses and then in overdrive. So what do you think geek chic in overdrive means?
That they wear ties and they drive cars that are fast so they'll get to your location quickly.
Okay, I think that's a good interpretation and actually works for the marketing of the Nerd Herd. I did think it was a bold choice that they are referencing the Geek Squad and are very adamant about not using the word geek, but in this slogan they use the word geek. But I guess nerd chic doesn't have the same ring to it.
Yeah, why wouldn't they say nerd something or other? Nerd vibes?
Nerd vibes. Yeah, nerd vibes in overdrive.
There we go.
All right, so that's It's a Sign. Stay tuned for more signs.
Maybe we wouldn't be as confused if we were able to visit other Burbank, or not other Burbanks, but other Buy-Mores besides one in Burbank. Because what if like all the other nerd herds are really like handsome and chic, and they're all really cool and sexy, and they're really fast and competent, but the Burbank one is just really kind of sad and pathetic.
I do remember they go to a Buy-More in Colorado in season 5. So we can put a pin in this until season 5.
All right, sounds good.
Great.
All right, so It's a Sign. Now it's time to jump into our other segment, one of our favorite segments, Chuck, Marry, Kill. One part of this episode that we want to marry, one part of this episode that we would like to kill. Erin, what would you like to kill?
I would like to kill Anna's weird interview plotline. I really liked the idea that, because the way I saw that going was that Anna and Morgan were both going to be interviewing for this job, and Anna wanted Morgan to leave the room because she felt uncomfortable because he was her boyfriend, and she wanted to, like, really do her best and, like, not be overshadowed by him. And I thought it would be cool to see Anna as, like, a boss figure and really coming into her own. But instead it was just that she wanted to make Morgan jealous and was just, like, kind of she was saying things to Chuck like, what do you think he thinks we're doing in here? And like was like trying to play footsies with him and things like that. And it just wasn't a super good look for one of the few female characters on this show. And it just, I didn't think we needed it. I think she could have either not been interviewing or could have like done an actual like comical interview like the 2 other men. that didn't have to be related to her relationship to Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd nix it. I'd
nice.
kill it.
That's
yeah,
a pretty
what about
good.
You?
That's a pretty good kill shot right there.
Yeah.
You were dangling it from the roof, and then you just dropped it.
I dropped it. Yep, it's dead now.
I think my kill for this episode, I'm obligated to oppose any major and or frequent use of Huey Lewis music in any kind of pop culture. Aside from American Psycho, I will let that slide. But otherwise, I really do not like Huey Lewis. I cannot stand Huey Lewis, actually. And I was upset in this episode because for a brief moment, I was like, do I like this use of Huey Lewis when Hip to Be a Square was on? Because I'm like, I'm happy for Chuck. So then I feel like those emotions are transferring over to my feelings about Huey Lewis. I was like, wait a second. No, I can't feel like this. Don't be happy about Huey Lewis. Don't like Huey Lewis. So cheesy. So lame. So bad. Anyhow, okay, what would you like to marry in this episode?
So it seems we have different feelings about this, but I really liked, this was something that worked for me in the pilot episode, and it worked for me again here, where there's a strong tie-in between some kind of arbitrary, nerdy information that Chuck learns from Morgan or someone else at the Bymore, and then uses later to get out of a jam. I really liked that he used Morgan's confusing Call of Duty plan to get out of the situation with Colt. I thought that was very smart on Chuck's part, and as I've said before, I like seeing Chuck using that big brain. It's nice to see, and I think that he is portrayed as a smart and a character who has things going for him mentally, and I like to see him taking charge and using the information that he gains, kind of like in Slumdog Millionaire, when he learns some stuff and then it applies to situations later in his life. It's nice to see.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It is good that he uses kind of like his nerdiness, I guess you would call it, to succeed in the spy world, and he's being true to himself, and he has his own talents that he's bringing to the table. Yeah,
it's silly, but it's good.
Yeah.
What about you? What would you like to marry?
From my marry this week is more of a technical thing.
Okay.
I guess I really like the choice to use a lot of jump cuts in this episode for comedic effect.
It heightened it. This episode seemed to move very fast.
I'm a big fan of jump cuts, and especially when they're used as creating a punchline for either. I mean, I really like Casey would be dying if he knew, it would kill him if he knew that we were on a date. That was really funny. And then the one with Morgan doing the cage fighting, also funny. I think there was another one too.
There were a couple.
Yeah, I like that tone, and I like the pace, and I think it was clever, and I don't think that they do it too often in the episodes that we've seen before, but I appreciated it.
Yeah, I did like that style.
Great. So now we're going to move on to another new segment for this season called the Scooter Scale.
The Scooter Scale! We should have a theme song for the Scooter Scale. Which
is named after, of course, Scooter, the manager of the Wienerlicious, who's no longer in Chuck. So the Scooter Scale, but it's how we are going to rank episodes of Chuck moving forward in terms of corn dogs or wieners. What's the unit of measurement in this case?
Please don't make me say wieners every episode. It has to be corn dogs.
All right, so it has to be corn dogs. So 0 to 5 corn dogs?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
0 to 5 corn dogs. 0 being a not enjoyable episode. 5 being an episode that we really liked. So, Erin, on the Scooter Scale, how many corn dogs would you give this episode?
I'm going to give it a 4.
4? Okay.
Yeah, I really had a good time with this episode. I thought that I liked, as you're saying, I liked the technical things. I liked the comedy. I liked the jump cuts. I liked the all-around plot of this episode. I thought it was a very good way to bring us back into the world of Chuck. It wasn't weighed down with explanation of what happened last season. I thought we got a little bit of that, and then we kind of jumped into everything. But I thought that what we saw was setting up some very interesting things for the following season, and I liked the way that everything was introduced. So, 4 corn dogs it is.
4 corn dogs, very nice. I'm going to go ahead and say 5 corn dogs.
Ooh.
I really liked this episode. It was really firing on all cylinders for me. I thought it was funny. It was smart, action-packed. I thought some of the stuff was kind of, the plot line of like, oh, are they going to kill Chuck, or are they going to, is Chuck going to return to his normal life? Some of that may have been, if you're thinking about the show as a show, you're like, well, they're not going to kill the main character in the premiere of the second season, so you probably can bet that he's not going to die.
but that didn't really turn me off too much. I really liked this episode. I thought it was great. It was the first episode that I watched in a while, and I was very amped for the rest of the season based on this episode. So,
Yeah.
5 corn dogs. 4 and 5 corn
Five corn
dogs.
dogs.
Very positive feedback from us on Chuck versus the First Date. Looking forward to the rest of season 2. I think it's going to be a good one.
I think so too. I'm very excited. I have been texting you a little bit. I don't know if I mentioned this in our last episode, but I've been missing Chuck in my life, and I am very excited to have him back.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with his hairy chest. Very nice. Looking good.
His hairy chest? Not his hairy tang, though.
No, not his hairy tang.
Just the hairy
Rest
chest.
in peace, Harry. Have fun in Hawaii with your wife.
All right, well, that is all for this week on Go Chuck Yourself. Make sure you subscribe, you tweet at us, you follow us on Twitter, you email us.
Leave us a review.
Leave us a review. That would be awesome.
Give us a shout out in our email. We'll give you a shout out on the show.
Yes, it will be a two-way street. You give us a shout out in the email, we give you a shout out on the show, and that's how that will work. So until next time, I've been Chris Gillespie telling you that food is sexy.
And I've been Erin Arata, and I need this reminder now more than ever, letting you know that anything is possible.
All right, take care. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Special thanks to freemusicarchive.org and the artist Hatakoa for providing us with our theme song, Warm Up. Make sure to email us at gochuckyourselfpodcast@gmail.com and tweet at us at gochuckpodcast. Remember to like and subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts and write a review if that's something you need to do. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.